In this video, I would like to talk about control. Control in relation to the conditioned mind. So what do we mean by control? Well, the conditioned mind is motivated by being able to accomplish a particular outcome when it does something. So to the conditioned mind, the motivation is arising because the conditioned mind expects a particular outcome when it does something. To the conditioned mind, it is, when I do this, I expect this to happen. If I do that, then I expect that to happen. So everything that the conditioned mind does is a means to an end. And the expectations that the conditioned mind has, the expectations of the outcome of its efforts, those expectations are very narrow-minded. And that means that the margins are very narrow. And then the funny thing is that the outcome could end up being 90% the way the conditioned mind was expecting it to be. But the last 10%, they turned out completely different. And then, then the conditioned mind is only focused on the 10%. And that is what I mentioned. That is what I mentioned about the narrow margins, because success to the conditioned mind equals the ability to make something happen completely according to the wishes, to the expectations. 90% success rate is very rarely good enough for the conditioned mind. That is called struggling. And that is what the conditioned mind is doing almost all the time. And it is very important to shine a light on it, to dig it out of the subconscious, to become aware of what is going on. You see, this impulse to control every possible outcome, that impulse is very often something that is operating in the subconscious, because it has to do with becoming successful. the way that the culture is defining success. And that means that it is a pattern that has been conditioned into the mind, has been programmed, has been indoctrinated into the mind. And the culture is saturated with that kind of control, mind-made control. But there is a dilemma. And you have, if you have watched some of my other videos, you have very likely heard me say that everything you try to control is controlling you. And that can be, that can be expressed in different ways. But you see, when you are doing something and you are expecting a certain result, then you are almost willing to do anything. And there are human beings that are doing anything. Many are willing to bend the rules of society to get the edge, to get ahead. The game of one-upmanship. And in that sense, everything ends up becoming a kind of a competition. And it matters. It matters very much. It is very important because of the investment of self-identification with the result. So the conditioned mind is obsessed with control. And as I said, the dilemma is that when we live like that, obsessed with control, then we feel being controlled all the time, which is a vicious circle. Because that just strengthens the impulse to try to control, and the mind haven't got a clue to what is going on. The mind doesn't know that it creates all of it on its own. What do I mean by you are being controlled by everything? Well, in the mind's effort to accomplish a certain outcome, everything that is in its way, everything that threatens by standing in the way of achieving the goal, all of that is exactly being perceived as a threat. this or that might prevent me from accomplishing my goals. So all of that might be a threat to this struggle, all of that is controlling you. You are simply forced to do something about them. And that can be quite a lot of different things. It can be other people, it can be finances, it can be time, it can be the weather. There are an endless array of things that could get in your way. And all of those things, they control you. They demand some kind of action from you. And you are irritated, agitated by all of these things that threatens to prevent you from accomplishing success, the way the culture defines success. So when we live like that, life is a struggle. And there is not many people who are pointing this out as I do. Because the entire culture is saturated with this idea that this is the only way to be motivated. This is the only way to get things done. That is to struggle. But you who are listening here, you are tired of this struggling. And you have asked yourself many times, is this the only way to live? And the answer is no. That is most certainly not the only way to live. There is another way to live. There is another way to be motivated. But we have to see through the illusion. We have to understand what it is that is going on. The mind cannot stop itself. Oftentimes you will hear that a remedy for this misunderstanding is to surrender. To surrender to what is. And I might even also have said it. And to some degree it is true that the remedy is surrender. But as I said, the mind cannot stop itself. So if the mind gets this idea, well, I just have to surrender, then you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you have to surrender? Are you expecting something to happen when you surrender? Can you see how the mind just continues the game? So the human being has been struggling through the entire life, and it suddenly dawns, this takes me nowhere. And these so-called successes are not successes at all. They are just temporarily emotional highs. There is no continuing satisfaction within that kind of living. And then the mind hears this, you have to surrender to what is. And then the mind says, ooh, yes, I will surrender to what is. But why? Well, I will tell you, because the mind once again thinks that it can control. This time it is just by surrendering. And then the mind expects a certain outcome again. Where is my peace? I am surrendering. I am so surrendered. Nobody in the entire universe is as surrendered as I am. I surrender, surrender, surrender. Where is my peace? Where is my peace? Just a new mind game. The mind cannot stop itself. What needs to happen is that you, and you are not the conditioned mind, that you see clearly what is going on. Watch your mind. Just simply watch it. Don't do anything. Learn how the mind has been conditioned. Do not blame yourself for that. It is not your fault. But right now you are living with, you are experiencing this conditioning. Learn about it. Dive into the beliefs that resides in the deepest corner of the conditioned mind. And that is what we are doing here together. We have to learn that it is a fool's game, what the culture is doing. Being motivated by a means to an end, being motivated by expecting a certain outcome. There are no joy within that doing. The journey is dreadful. It is filled with obstacles. And you will never arrive. That is what we need to see. That is what we need to understand, to acknowledge very clearly. Then surrendering happens. That surrendering is not a doing. It is a happening. But be aware, be very aware, because at that moment surrendering happens, the mind will try to grab hold on that and to proclaim, I am doing it. It is I who are surrendering. It is working, and at that moment, at that instant, it is gone again. I don't know if you have been experiencing that before. We need to see clearly. We need to understand what it is that is going on within ourselves. We need to understand what the conditioned mind is. And perhaps you say, well, I haven't got time for that. Then put on a piece of music by Louis Armstrong. We have all the time in the world. Ba-da-da-dai, ba-ba-ba-ba-bai, ba-bum-ba-dai. We have all the time in the world. This is what there is worth spending time doing. Spending time in the conventional way of understanding time. When you come to understand how the conditioned mind is functioning, at the same moment you will discover who you really are. And that awakening is the whole, what to call it, is the intention of the entire universe. And the conditioned mind do not understand that. But you do. You. You understand because you are the universe. So you cannot surrender, you conditioned mind. Because if you try to surrender, you are expecting a particular result, a particular outcome. So you cannot surrender, and you does not have to. This message is not for you, the conditioned mind. This message is for something deeper. You who you really are. Your motivation is curiosity, love. Curiosity and love. That is the foundation of the entire universe. And by doing these inquiries, You're finding your way back to yourself. And you have for yourself discovered that the conditioned mind is a the conditioned mind is not a particular effective way of living, although it might look like that. But the side effects of the conditioned minds is havoc, is chaos, is pain, is suffering, all of which is absolutely unnecessary in order to create a society, a culture. Curiosity. So when we are motivated by curiosity, the margins are very wide. And that means that there are no struggling. We are creating in harmony with what is already. That is love. And that is the way that we are headed. Let's just keep on walking. We have all the time in the world. Thank you, my friend, wherever you are. And take care. Until next time.